My name is John Bottero. I'm auctioneer, appraiser, and vice president here at Thomaston Place, and we would love to welcome you to our Temptations auction scheduled for February 26, 27, and 28 coming up this year. Please join us on Friday for a fantastic collection of country items, which we will have live audio, absentee bidding, phone bidding, and we will have internet bidding on all platforms. So what I'd like to take a little bit of time to explain is the concept of original painted surface. In colonial and early American times, many of the rural areas created functional items for furniture, chairs, for pantry boxes, for a whole bunch of different things. And they kind of one-upped it a little bit by adding paint. You got to understand, in those days you didn't run to Walmart when something broke, okay? You actually upgraded or fixed or put it back into service the things that had been handed down from generation to generation. So the concept of painted surface was a way to embellish those common things for most of the rural areas in America. We're not talking about paint decoration now, we're just talking about color that was added, and mostly to common forms to create some dimension, some color contrast, and brighten up or spruce up the home slightly. So in this section, what I really want to talk about, here you can see there's a couple of really common forms that have been enhanced by color. Here, if you take a look at this high chair here, it's a nice little spindle back high chair, very common. They're around almost everywhere. They sell for $50 to $75. Oftentimes they're used for teddy bears or dolls or something like that. But this one rises above all of its counterparts because of that wonderful salmon color paint. And whenever you have paint, you always have expected wear. So you can see here on the top of the arm rails here where it would be handled frequently, there's going to be wear down to the natural wood. Down here on the foot shelf, there's wear from little feet being on there all the time. So here's an salmon colored painted high chair. Okay, that's going to probably bring $300 or $400 as opposed to its lesser counterpart that would simply be in a natural wood finish. Here's a great example. Boy, if you take a look at this chest down below, really crude surface, probably a Canadian-made lift top blanket chest here that is so fundamentally simple. Block feet, very simple strapping around the top, not dovetailed, mortise and tenon, pegged construction. But what takes that to the next level is that incredible robin's egg blue paint that's on there. That blue paint takes that and elevates the price considerably. Here's another form. We talk about pantry boxes. Now, a lot of country decorators love to get pantry boxes, and they love to put them in these stacks. So here's a stack of pantry boxes. Now, common, if you take a look at pantry boxes, and we're going to talk more about pantry boxes as we go along, very simple nail banded pantry boxes here. But what takes those from a $35 box to a $100 to $150 box is the paint. So now when collectors go after them, very common for collectors to try to create graduated sets. Here we've got the blue, the yellow, the gray, the red, the blue, the red, the green, okay? And that creates that color separation. Very, very important in higher-end country collectible homes. Probably didn't appear like this originally, but these came out of a house where people spent years putting this together. We take from this stack of country boxes to this stack of country boxes to talk about the difference in price. If you look at these, again, a nice graduated stack done in paint, looks great. Smaller ones are always more rare, okay, but what sets these apart, makes these more valuable than these, is that these are finger jointed. So if you take a look at the way that the bands come around and lock on themselves, these have simple finger joints. Those finger joints make all the difference in the construction of the way they put together. One of the cool things that we should always note is the topper. The one on the top is the cherry on top of the sundae for most country collectors. We've seen little boxes like this, 2 inches in diameter or less, bring more than the value of the entire stock because they're so rare and so hard to come by. But country collectors like that little tiny one sitting right there on the top. That's the jewel of the entire stack. On this one down here, you can see again, flax wheel, extremely simple, very common in many, many houses. How did they up this a little bit? With a nice coat of a mustard yellow paint with a very simple red pinstriping on it. Okay, so there's how paint decoration, one more time, takes and elevates the desirability of a common piece to a higher financial level. Okay, here's a wonderful dressing table done in fantastic mustard yellow paint, and they've done a nice little bit of hand decorating in black and black pinstriping here. Single drawer, this would have been the pride of somebody's bedchambers. Just a dressing table, maybe a writing stand would be used in private chambers or in somebody's bedroom. When we talk about surfaces and when we talk about what makes something valuable, one of the really interesting points that I like to bring into people's attention when we're talking particularly country or rural made pieces is the art of paint decoration. Many things were left natural, some things got painted, but then there's a whole world of things that had a paint decoration applied using different colors and different strokes. Oftentimes it was intended to simulate wood grain. So if we take a look at this very common blanket chest here, what you see about it is a 200-year-old paint surface that looks like a crotch split mahogany veneer. This is done by varying tones of paint, which was applied there and has absolutely made that box come alive. If you look at the interior of this piece is simple pine. There's knots, there's all kinds of things which would have come through if it was left natural. But by putting this wonderful paint on it, okay, it really takes this to another whole dimension. So you can see on the surface where there's been some wear over the years. People have used this as a seat, as a working surface and so forth. That's acceptable because what you have predominantly coming through is the paint decoration. So paint decoration was a fanciful way to do things by people. There were people that did it in their own homes, and sometimes there were people or itinerant painters that went around home to home and got food and lodging in exchange for their ability to decorate furniture. It was an industry back, particularly in New England and other areas. You can see here a relatively common form of this chest. It is dovetailed and everything, but if this box did not have this paint decoration on it, this would probably be a $200 box. But because that vibrant paint decoration has survived to this day, that piece is probably going to bring somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500. So when you hear stories about don't remove the paint, don't strip the paint, this is exactly what they're talking about. This is leaving that natural decoration in place as much as it is, even though it may have some blemishes on it. Let's take that same concept and come over here to this chest of drawers. A very common early 19th century chest of drawers has the 3 glove boxes at the top, overhung top drawer, turnstile columns on the side. This chest of drawers might bring $150 to $250 if it were natural. But because of that wonderful paint decoration that survived on there, this common form now will probably bring somewhere between $800 and $1,200, possibly more. Here's another good thing where paint decoration came in. Here's a Pryor and Hamblin portrait, lot number 1015. Obviously a well-known New England itinerant painter that did portraiture. However, it's even better because somebody took a flat OG style frame and enhanced it with paint decoration. So this piece right here with its original paint decorated frame is probably going to bring somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $3,000. Here's another great example of the subject of paint decoration. Here is a 1-drawer blanket chest. It has the drawer at the bottom, the top lifts up. Again, maybe a $300 form, nothing real fancy about the way that the legs are cut out, nothing fancy about the way that the top overhangs or it's molded, but it gets most of its value today from the paint decoration on there. And you can see that vibrant grain decorator, faux grain decoration that was done probably back in the 1820s, 1830s by either a homeowner or an itinerant painter that did this. It was cherished, it was preserved, and now it brings 3 or 4 times the money simply because of the paint decoration on the surface. Let's take that to another form here. Here's a nice little document box. Here's a wonderful little dome top document box. Okay, very simple pine. It does have a newspaper lining on the inside, but what takes this from a $50 to $75 box to a $300 to $500 box is the paint decoration on the outside. This one in particular is kind of interesting because it uses a forest green pinstripe, and that's typical of the Paris Hill region of Maine. The itinerant painters, the painters that worked in that region, often did this very simple forest green pinstriping, which adds the ability to give it orientation to a particular region. Okay, so a nice little, what it went in a document box, some type of a strong box, okay, that was used in the house. Now another whole level because of the paint decoration. Okay, the next thing I'd like to share with all of our viewers is this incredible shaker collection. This is just a sample representation of some of the things that we have in this auction, great country auction. But a country auction is almost never complete without shaker items. And so people ask me all the time, what's the big deal about shaker? Why is shaker so highly sought after? What is it about shaker that maintains its value and makes it so highly collectible? Well, the first thing is that if you take a look at shaker life and shaker lifestyle and the workmanship that goes into things, their craftsmen are probably some of the best at scale and proportion. When you take a look at how something is created, it's created with function and form to be simplistic and natural and not over embellished. So when we take a look at some of these things, we want to make sure that you kind of look at just how refined they are in their simplicity. The next thing always when we talk about antiques is going to be condition. So we can have things, whether they be shaker or whether they be non-shaker, that if the condition is poor, then obviously the value is going to be poor as well. But this particular collection came to us from a consignor who knows his shaker, has collected it all his life, and is now starting to downsize. So in this collection, let's talk about pantry boxes first. The iconic shaker pantry box. It's that wonderful oval pantry box. And in this particular case, if you look at them, the absolute even flow of the oval, very important. If you take a look at the way that the finger joints are created here, they overlap with these long extended fingers and simply tacked in place. And they've been there for over 100 years. Then we look at the painted surface. We talked about painted surface before. Nice, thin, original painted surface on these things. So here's an example. We talked a little bit about it before when we were talking about the round pantry boxes. But in the way of these pantry boxes, particularly shaker, okay, size usually is more valuable as you get smaller. Okay, they were less made, they oftentimes are damaged, so when we get good examples of smaller ones, they're typically worth more value. Here's a nice one right here. This is lot number 1047. If you take a look at it, it's beautifully done. It's preserved well, large box, probably in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. Here's a smaller red one, same thing. Less finger joints, obviously, because of the space involved. Equally as proportional and well taken care of. Okay, you're probably looking at $2,500 to maybe $3,500 on that one. But the piece de resistance is this one right here. Not only is it the smallest of what we have to offer, not only is it good in workmanship, but it's done in that incredible mustard yellow, which is one of the rarest of the paint colors. All preserved well, everything looks great all the way around. No major breaks, chips, repairs, or anything like that. This little one right here, I'm sure, will be the pride of somebody's collection and probably somewhere in the $4,000 to $6,000 range. So we go on to talk about other common things. Here are common brushes. These are natural horsehair brushes made by shakers, some painted. And on these right here, they're in great shape. All really well cared for. No checking, no chips, nice surfaces on those. You're probably looking at another $1,000 to $1,500 for a nice selection of shaker brushes here. We go into the sewing world. A lot of the ladies in the shaker communities were incredible seamstresses. So you have here darning eggs, a couple of nice red painted darning eggs, and a table mounted pin cushion. on that one right there, all in great paint, no damage, no breakage, everything's as good as it can be. And on those three right there, you're probably looking at another $1,000, maybe $2,000 for a lot like that in that great surface condition. And how about a 2-tier, some would call it a 3-tier sewing caddy right here. In yellow paint, we've got 2 layers of thimbles and 1 pin cushion on the top. Beautiful piece, again, extremely well proportioned. All the bobbins are in contrasting paint, and on one like that, again, you're talking probably $2,000 to $3,000. How about something as simple as a grain scoop? Take a look at these 2 grain scoops here, one painted, one not. But just take a look at how smooth and how great those are in that condition there. There's no chipped areas, there's no poor workmanship from gouge marks and things like that. Look at this one right here. It's been used. It's even the red paint is on there. You can see the wear along the leading edge as one would expect if this was used. 2 great grain scoops there. And again, you're probably looking at $1,000 to $1,500. My favorite piece is this piece right here, and somebody else actually must have thought a lot about it because they made a custom museum stand to hold it in their collection. This is a clacker, or a noisemaker. Its whole function in the world is to sit there and make noise. So it's a 2-sided hammer on a platform with a handle, unpainted, very, very simple for calling meetings to order and so forth. And there's another rare item there. Not too many of those that we've seen examples of. No country sale would be complete without toys. All country dealers, almost invariable, love to collect toys, pieces from our past. So this auction on February 26th is no different. We have put together a great assortment of things from our youth. And these things here, as you can see, is a wide variety of what's being offered. Pull toys. We've got a whole collection of German pull toys here. Some mohair, probably Stife, turn of the century. Long-haired goat here. We've got a cow as well on a wooden platform base. These were very popular and often are found in a really poor condition. So we have pull toys. We have some dolls. A couple of beautiful MILLINER'S dolls that came to us. These MILLINER'S dolls are not porcelain, they're actually made in carved wood and painted. So their joints, their arms, their legs are all articulated in period clothing and painted faces for, again, the rural girls, the rural children of the period, not the higher echelon. Here's a wax one. Imagine a wax head doll surviving after over 100 years. Think of hot attics, storage, places where they would be kept, where they would probably disintegrate very easily, but now and again we see wax head dolls very often. Come over here, we've got a couple of examples of folk art Noah's Arks. Take a look at this one right here. A wonderful toy that was made by some loving parent, okay, for their children, and hand-whittled pairs of all the animals in Noah's Ark right here. This should bring $300 or $400 at least. But the time spent and the care to preserve these for all these generations needs to go to a good collector who will continue to preserve them. Cast iron banks are another great collectible. We have a great representation of building still banks in this one. There was a collector that gave us their collection to consign. A little bit about cast iron banks. It's not the cast iron that makes them value. As we talked about before, it's the condition of the original paint. So here's a Stevens novelty bank piece right here, very good. It's got some paint loss, never overpainted. You're probably looking at $300 to $500 on a good example of a Stevens novelty bank. Here's another building bank, doesn't have any paint on it. Nice bank, nice piece of a collection, but only maybe $100 to $200. So in this auction, just as the other great country pieces are, okay, we have things for the children, or collectors of children's items as well. Okay, remember, again, Friday, February 26th, we'll be offering this incredible portrait of a gentleman attributed to John Bottero. Phenomenal, monumental pieces of chalkware. Over here, we've got a beautiful cow weather vane, along with several other weather vanes in the sale. Still lifes. Here's a still life. I've never seen one before with frog legs in it. Where will you ever find another still life of food, including frog legs? Still, we have a silhouette of a family here, important silhouette of the entire family. We have children's items, again, sewing items. We have an incredible pair of male and female portraits here attributed to Robert Street at $3,000 to $5,000. Please take a look at this online, take a look at the catalog, participate in the auction. We will be having a 2-week preview from the 15th of February right through until the day of the sale. We'd love to take care of you any way that we can. If you have questions, we'll take care of condition reports, give you all the information you need so you can bid successfully on these wonderful items that we have for you in the feature sale.